I'm back. Okay. Well, I'm pretty ashamed. I haven't recorded in a hot minute, and it's been really long. I've had a lot of things that I've had to do. I'm currently trying to figure out a place to move to, a different apartment that does, it's within my budget, which is not a lot, but it's not impossible, just really difficult. And so I just figured to relax on the last day of the year, to just get through this and just breathe and go over my reading journey this last year. I actually have a script today. Amazing. That never happens. So pretty much, I'm gonna go over my top 5 books, my bottom 5 books, my review of how Goodreads went this year, how Storygraph went this year, how I plan to track my reading progress next year, how many books I read. I might list off the books I read, and then what I hope to read next year and what my goal is. So starting with this year, I wanted to read 50 books throughout the year. That was my goal. I hit that goal at the beginning of December. Having said that, because I was using 2 different tracking apps, I got it a little mixed up, and I ended up reading 57 books this year. More than that, because I didn't count all my different comic books that I read. If we're going off of my comic books I've read over 100 books this year. But since I'm not counting those right now because I didn't log them, we're going with 57. So we're gonna go with, I'm gonna go ahead and read the books I read this year. I read Seize the Night by Sherilyn Kenyon, The Orc Prince Trilogy, Fantasy Lover, The Foxhole Court, 2 Scoops of Hellfire, Bought, Rescued from the Depths, Extra Virgin Gargoyle, Sacred Nature, Ode to be a Dragon, Blood Witch, The Alpha Sun, The Mate or Meal series, The Coven, Book of Shadows, Speaker for the Dead, Vampireville, Birthright, Constantine Distorted Illusions, The Red Hood and Arsenal comics, all of those ones, Ender'S Game, I'm Glad My Mom Died, Vampire Kisses, Blood Relatives, Kissing Coffins, Knit One Girl 2, Displacement, The Dreaming, Forbidden Fruit, Eat Caffeine, Circe, Every Word You Never Said, Wikipedia, A Song of Achilles, Boys That Bite, Devil's Ridge, Scumville Self-Saving System 1 and 2, Accidentally in Love, Euphoric Wonderland, Dark Tide 1, Onslaught, Persephone Station, Star Wars The Clone Wars Adventures Volume 6, In Deeper Waters, The Girl with Ghost Eyes, A Demon in Silver, Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation, Taproot, Heaven Official's Blessing 1 and 2, Lost Stars. Yeah. So those are the ones that I have vlogged. Pretty much I read a lot. So my top 5 books of this year and my bottom 5. I'm going to start with my top 5, just because I want to start on a good note, have a little bit of a mid, and then hopeful for next year. So my top 5 this year was Rescued from the Depths by Ella Maven. I really liked it. That's something I just read this past month. I really enjoyed it. I have been getting a lot more into romance, and it was a sci-fi romance, and it was interesting. It was a novella, but it held my attention, and I enjoyed reading it. So I really liked that one. And then Fantasy Lover by Sherilyn Kenyon. It's the beginning of the Dark Hunters Legends series. It's pretty much, I love the Dark Hunters. I grew up reading Chronicles of Nick with my cousin. So, it very much was, just, I wanted to see what her other books were like. So I decided to start on that, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I felt really emotionally attached to the characters. There's a lot of emotion going on. And the next book is The Foxhole Court. I have read this one before, but I didn't finish it, I don't think. So I was just rereading it and enjoying it. Ender'S Game is definitely on the top of my list this year because I really enjoyed it. It got me really getting into my thicker books again. It really got me, like, thinking. There's a lot going on. I started tabbing. I can't even show you my copy of it right now because it's all packed up with my other books, but it was really, really good and I really enjoyed it. And then of course my last one is Circe. I really like Madeline Miller's writing style. I like The Song of Achilles. But because I have read the Song of Achilles all the way through, I didn't put it down as like a, you know, I didn't put it down as a just read this year, so I'm not putting it in my top 5, but it's one of my favorites. So I took Cersei and I was like, you know, I'll go ahead, and I was in love with Cersei the whole time. I really loved it. So that's my top 5. My bottom 5 are Boys That Buy It by Mary Mancusi. I like the concept, however, there's a lot of romanticization of EDs in it, so I just could not make myself enjoy it. A Demon in Silver. I don't remember 90% of it. I listened to the audiobook. It was like 10 hours of me just listening to it one day, and I don't remember it. I remember something about a farmer and lots of death. But aside from that, I don't remember 90% of it, and that's nothing against the authors, just I don't remember it, so it's on my bottom because I can't score it. And then The Girl with Ghost Eyes by M.H. Morrison. Interesting concept. I picked it up because of Hanako-kun, and it was kind of a stupid reason to pick it up, but it was recommended to me through those channels. It was boring to me for some reason. Again, this was another audiobook, and I was just listening to it and I was like, okay, and why is this important? Why is this being brought up? And it just felt like the main character was taking too much on her shoulders and she wasn't asking for help when she could have, because she has like chosen. My camera just closed out on its own. That's interesting. Okay, the next book is The Ink Caffeine, Melrose and Vine. I did a video on this book. It gave me genre whiplash and it was insane. It threw me off and I hated it when I first read it. I couldn't read anything for like 3 days straight after that. It was very difficult. I got on so many rants about it. I really hope the author releases more books because there's a lot of loose ends. I would like to find out if they get tied up or not, and I just kind of would like to finish that. It was not my favorite book this year, but it has definitely caught my attention. And then my last one is Dark Tide 1 Onslaught. It is a Star Wars book, which is unusual because I usually love all the Star Wars books. I didn't like this one. It was very wordy and very, like, pretentious feeling in a way. Like there's character deaths, there's major character deaths and stuff, and maybe I started at the wrong spot in the series, I guess. In the series, in the collection, but honestly, it had a lot that I wanted and didn't get from it. So it's nothing against Star Wars. I love Star Wars books, but like that one was very difficult for me for some reason, so it's on my bottom 5. What I noticed this year is that I primarily read romance and science fiction this year. If you had asked me at the beginning of the year what my favorite genre is, I would have said sci-fi, not sci-fi, I would have said fantasy, paranormal. But I noticed in November, I'm like, oh shoot, I really love sci-fi and I really love romance now. And I feel so like frustrated with the younger version of me because like back then I was just like, ugh, romance, and now I'm sitting here like, yes, it's fun to read and stuff. There's so much variety. So I feel like I've grown and I feel like I have learned that I like romance and science fiction. So not necessarily science fiction romance, which there is that, but just haven't really thought it through before, I guess. So I'm gonna go over my review for Goodreads. I really liked using Goodreads this year. It was good. I could just scan a book's cover or I could scan the barcode, the ISBN, and it would bring up the book for me and I could put it on my want to read list. And I started using my Kindle a lot, so like my Kindle would automatically put it on my currently reading, and then when I finished it, it would mark it as finished for me, so I wouldn't have to go and do that. I enjoy that. The downside is if I read a book without logging that I began to read it, whenever I went in to put in as read, it would not add it to my Goodreads list saying that I read it this year. it would just put it as sometime else and it wouldn't put it in my reading challenge log, which really sucked for me. Because like I said, I read over 57 books this year. My log was only needed 50 of them. So that was really frustrating for me. And so that was the only downside to it. I mean, there's a lot of the Goodreads giveaways, which I won a good amount of those this year, and I have been reading them, but again, I am packing up and getting ready to move, so I don't have access to some of them. And then other ones, like I just won one the other day, and I was trying to read it last night, but it's poetry, so it wouldn't load on my Kindle, so that was really frustrating. So I'll see if I can get it to load on the laptop, but like, you know. But all in all, I think I'll be using it again next year. I think I'll just be a little bit more careful. And then the other place that I used to log things was Storygraph this year. I really, really loved that I had charts, that I had diagrams, and there was all kinds of color in it. And it there's like content warnings that you can read from other readers, which was really, really helpful at one point for me because I went through a really rough time, and so, you know, just having those content warnings was helpful. What I didn't like about it is it double logged me on 2 or 3 books, so that was frustrating. It double logged me. Another thing is that it's very user run. I feel like you can select different editions, which is great. However, some of them are user added, and so they're inaccurate, and so there's a lot that needs to be advanced and like fixed with that app, because I don't think that we should be having, you know, one edition says it's 425 pages, another edition says it's 429 pages, and it says it's released on different years when really it's not, and so it's just kind of like difficult in that situation. I know that I could, you know, join as like one of those people who helps clear that stuff up, but I don't want to have to do that. I'm a little busy doing my reading and working and finding a place. But I really did enjoy that, so I'll be using it again because I did like having the chart and my page count for the year. So I do plan on doing tracking through Goodreads and Storygraph next year, but I also plan on tracking through my Instagram, which I have been doing, so taking pictures of the books that I read and putting it on and how I felt about it, but I want to do better and more details. So my goal next year is to read at least 50. I want to go up to maybe 100 next year. I know people who've gone up to 200 this past year, so I'm like, I feel like I'm a little behind, but it's okay. And I already have books picked out that I most definitely want to get done probably at the beginning, the first couple months. So I do want to read some manga. I want to read Chainsaw Man. I have requests in Libby for the Chainsaw Man books. I do want to read Servamps. I just looked where I usually have it. I do have the entire series, however they're in Japanese, so I need to find them in English because it's going to take me too long to translate. And then of course I want to read through Black Butler again. But I want to read through those books this year. And then for series, The League by Sherilyn Kenyon, I have the first 3 of that series. I would like to finish the entire series and read that this year, just because I like how she writes. Going off of Sherilyn Kenyon again, I want to finish the Dark Hunter series. There's something like 26 books in that series. I've read 2.5. I've read Fantasy Lover, and I've read Seize the Night. I am currently reading Acheron and Styx hand in hand at the same time. I know it's a little bit of a weird thing to do that, but because their stories are so coinciding, I think it's not that bad of an idea for me. Downside is one of them's 900 pages, the other is over 1,000 pages, so, you know. And then I want to read the Michael Fay books. I remembered about those yesterday. I went to the store and I saw a bunch of them at Goodwill. So it's like, oh, shoot, I forgot about those. So I have a bunch of those waiting for me on my reading app. There's 8 of them, I believe, so that shouldn't be too hard to read. And then the Pendragon series by DJ McHale. I loved those books growing up, so I want to reread them and have a more accurate like understanding of them and stuff, so I want to read those ones. There's something like 11 or 12 of them that I have, but they're all packed up right now. And then I want to finish the Ender Quintet as well. I have read 2 of the 5, so the next one I need to read, so I've read Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead, so I need to read Children of the Mind, sorry, I need to read Xenocide, Children of the Mind, and then Ender's Shadow. And I think Ender's Shadow is told by the perspective of Bean, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's what I want to read. I don't know if that's what's gonna happen, but that's what I want to happen, so we'll see. Let me know what you thought, if you read all of your books that you wanted to read this year or not, and just if you have any plans for any books you recommend. But other than that, have a good day, have a good rest of your year. God, 2022 went by so fast. Bye guys.